Alrighty, guys, welcome to tonight's charting session. It is Sunday, June 25th. Hopefully everybody has been having a good weekend. I know I'm ready to get the week started. So let's just jump right in. First thing we're going to talk about is we're going to go over ES, then we'll go over NQ, kind of what we're looking at the week. We'll check news, talk about charts, what my bias is going into Monday, and also just the overall week. And then we'll answer some questions after going over ES and NQ. And then we'll do a little bit of a replay session. We'll go on like a Forex pair, like GBP USD, or we'll go over, gold or, some sort of Forex pair. And then we'll do a replay session, do a little pop quiz, and then test. Right. The best way that I like to do the replay sessions is we normally just, have to build confidence on the draw and liquidity. That's my favorite way of using replay sessions is, gaining that confidence on what the draw on liquidity is. So let's jump in. So looking at first thing I want to start off with is the weekly time frame. Now, I want everybody to kind of look at this chart, and if we were to look at this chart and let's say that we're looking at like a 15-minute chart right here, right? Let's say we're looking at a 15-minute chart here. What kind of bias would we be looking at here? Just kind of looking at this chart, we have this fair value gap here as well, right? We've swept this high here on ES, right? Clear buy-side liquidity on the weekly time frame. And look at this candle that comes next to this, right? Now, in a past charting session, I think, maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago, the biggest thing we were talking about, right, is how that weekly candle is going to close, right? Last week was very important because we wanted to see how is that candle going to close, because that candle is probably going to give us a good entail of what we could expect, the coming weeks. So right when we come up on ES, we sweep that level, and you can notice not a single candle close above this. The next candle that comes in, right, big sell-off week back inside this range. That is what we like to see for a clear liquidity sweep, right? So just looking at the weekly time frame, we can see that we possibly could have some more downside coming in this week. Now, this is going to be kind of the week to tell us if we want to see more downside or see more upside. Now, in my opinion, just by looking at the weekly chart, just by looking at this chart, I would want to be more bearish going into the week, but I am also a little bit bullish on a smaller time frame. So we'll go into kind of both. For the week though, right? Just for the week, not tomorrow, not everything, but for the week in total, I'm going to be a little bit bearish just from looking at this chart. Right? We have clear buy side. Notice as well on this entire range, right? This entire range here, we've now retraced a discount. We've swept that level. We're in a fair value gap. We're having big displacement back to the downside, right? Big bearish candle coming in. I'd want to see us now meet discount of this entire range here, right? So we kind of have the big range here. I'd like to see discount possibly coming in the next month, right? That is a possibility. So let's zoom into the daily now. So now on the daily, I'm actually going to be a little bit more bullish now. And the reason is because we're coming into this daily fair value gap. Now, we've actually formed relative equal lows here, so I would like to see a little bit more downside. Now, we could end up bouncing pretty strong going into tomorrow, but since we've had these relative equal lows here, I still believe this will become low resistance. Even if we maybe bounce to the upside, I still think we have lower to go in this area. Now, once we sweep this low here, this 4381, and actually displace into this fair value gap, I'm going to be looking to see that reaction, right? That is what I want to see. Now, notice, we've already touched into this, right? This candle's already been touched. We've now started to bounce just a little bit. So we could end up getting a possible move to the upside going into tomorrow. So even if we don't get more displacement back down, if we can get market structure shift to the upside, I'm going to take that as confidence that we probably have more upside to go. Looking at the daily back again, we also have another daily fair value gap that has been formed up in this area. Looking at the 4 hour, we don't really have any sort of fair value gap up there except for the big one up here. And then looking at the 1 hour as well, we don't really have anything kind of have this right here. But again, we want to mark those buy side levels in that we're watching. So like we were talking about the other day as well, and kind of this entire week, we've been talking about this move to the downside, recognizing what this looks like to us, right? Now, I'm going to take this off so it's a little bit easier to see here. But going into next week, I am actually going to be a little bit bullish for the first couple of days. Monday, Tuesday, we might end up seeing a possible bull run. And the reason is because I like this move to the downside, right? Notice there's no really significant high here. Now, we can maybe mark in, this being buy side. I would like to mark this in. But all of these highs, to me, looks like a clear low resistance liquidity run, meaning if we end up taking any of these levels here, I would want to see a push to take most of them out, right? We have no really significant high. I'd like to see all of these kind of levels get taken out, meaning I could expect to see something like this going into Monday or Tuesday after we've now come into this daily fair value gap. Again, we got to remember, we have swept this overall big liquidity level, right? But we're not going to be, super strong bearish until we get market structure shift on a bigger time frame. I'm talking daily time frame, weekly or 4-hour time frame, right? Because now what this looks like to me, right, is this is now the initial move back to the downside, right? Now that we're coming back into this daily fair value gap, we've touched back into this. We possibly have room to now bounce. I want to see if we get some sort of market structure shift on a smaller time frame. So looking at the 1 hour, right, if we could expect to see more upside, right, what I would like to see is this now becomes our market structure shift, right? We have kind of relative equal highs here. I would want to see a big displacement move through this level, right? So again, I'm not going to be bullish until the market tells me that I want to be bullish, right? Right now, we're still starting to, slow down. I'm not trying to predict anything. I could, enter long and, this would be a little bit premature. Right now, we have come into this fair value gap. It might be a little early, but I want to wait for the market to tell me, right, we're ready to go up. So I would want to see a move to the upside, right? Displacement above this level. That would be our market structure shift. Possibly look to come back to a fair value gap and then look to see these levels possibly getting taken out in the coming days. So this wants to be low resistance liquidity, and I'm expecting a possible move in the coming days to maybe see these highs getting taken out, right? We've come down, possibly look to maybe even see one last push, right? Again, I'd want to see one last push down so we could sweep these levels and come further into this daily fair value gap. And then after coming down, sweeping this, I'd then look to see some sort of buy model to then go back towards the upside and take out all of these highs here, right? All of this is resting liquidity. All of the stops that have been rested and placed above all of these highs here, right? When we know that there's no significant high here, right? It's just a slow move down kind of action. We know that we're most likely, if we get a move to these levels, this becomes what we call low resistance liquidity run, meaning all of this should get ran through, right? So I am going to mark this high as our buy side level, though, because this looks like probably the clearest high we have. Notice we just have a space, a little space between the previous action. So this is going to be my buy side level I'm going to mark in on a bigger time frame on the 1 hour. On a smaller time frame, this would be my lower time frame buy side level, but on a bigger time frame, I would want this to become my market structure shift, right? So I'd want to see displacement through this possibly coming into tomorrow. Notice as well, we have 1 hour or 5-minute, 15-minute SMT that was formed with NQ coming into the day. So looking at ES, I want to be patient, right? Two things I'm looking for, right? Going into tomorrow. Either number one, market opens, we continue to sell off. If we get a sell off into this, I'm not looking to take any short, right? I'm going to be patient. Now, if we get a move like, let's say this, where possibly we come up, maybe sweep this high, and then get displacement back down, that could be a possible short opportunity up here, maybe right here. But if we get displacement up and we continue to hold this area, I'm looking to take longs. Now, let's say we come into tomorrow and we're, open up down here. If we open up down here, I'm going to be long biased going into the day, and I'm going to be careful, right? Now, I could still be short biased, but I'd have to see more context, more data, possibly, 30 minutes, 40 minutes into the market, I can get more, a better idea of what the draw might be because I want to see more structure, right? I want to see more action start to form, and that can give me a better and clearer bias. But since we have this daily fair value gap, since we have these lows stacked right here, we're coming down, we're starting to bounce, we've had a, low resistance liquidity run right here that I want to see get taken out. I'm going to be patient when we come into this area and look to see signs for that bias or that reversal, right? I want to see buyers start stepping in, big push to the upside, some sort of market structure shift, and we can look to take a possible long trade as well. Again, also noticing too, a lot of opportunity of this being our sell side level. We could possibly see this level get swept, look to take a short-term model to the upside. Let's say, this is our buy side level that gets put in, right? There's so many different opportunities that we can look to, take a trade, right? Coming down daily, internal gets swept, and then we can get, our buy model, right? To then target back up, right? That's kind of what I'm expecting going into Monday, right? I'm looking to see one last push to the downside in this daily fair value gap. Sweeping out these lows have not been swept yet. and then looking to see that instant reversal, big displacement back up to take out these relative equal highs up here and all this low resistance liquidity on a bigger time frame. So let's take a look at NQ now. Let's clear up the chart. Actually, I think that I like this actually. All right. First thing as well, want to look at that bigger time frame. So looking at the weekly chart, one thing I want everybody to pay attention to is there's two charts that we want to pay attention to on NQ. We have the NQ, which I actually might start changing my charts, guys. I actually might start charting on NQU. Actually, not NQU. What is it? What was I going to chart on? Was it not NQ? Why is this? I think it was NAS 100 then. Yeah, looking at NAS 100, right? So we want to look at the differences here. Tracking the same index, but on this chart, looking at the monthly, we've swept these equal highs, and we have a monthly fair value gap here, right? Looks to me like we are a little bit extended to the upside. I'd like to see a little bit more displacement back to the downside, looking at the daily as well. Again, we have this daily fair value gap has not yet been met. So I still would want to see more downside on NQ. If we're looking at NQ as well, we have this little downtrend here that I want to become a low resistance liquidity run, right? Looks like a bear flag or whatever you want to call it. To me, it looks like low resistance, meaning I would want that sell side to be that low. So going into tomorrow on NQ, now we do have an SMT. We do have an SMT here at the lows on a bigger time frame with ES. But I would like to see a little bit more downside back in this daily fair value gap on NQ. Now, we have put an SMT. We are holding past fair value gaps. We have a 1 hour fair value gap here as well. We're continuing to hold. So we absolutely could possibly get a bounce to the upside, right? Our buy side liquidity is going to be that previous high currently. And we still have some relative equal highs up here that I want to see get taken out, as well as this 1 hour fair value gap. So going into tomorrow, my bias is going to be pretty loose, right? Pretty loose. And a lot of it's going to depend on what happens in the overnight session. A lot of it's going to depend on what happens in the overnight session, right? The reason is because ES and NQ both have daily fair value gap, right? Both ES and NQ have hit some sort of resistance level, right? Looking at ES on a bigger time frame, we've swept that monthly or weekly buy side level. Looking at NAS, we've in that monthly fair value gap, as well as we swept those highs and have instant selling pressure. So just looking at the chart on a bigger time frame, it looks bearish. So that's something we want to take into account. But we also have to take into account daily as well. We're still super bullish on a chart. We can't take that, that rejection too much, right? Until we start seeing a little bit more signs. So I want to be careful, right? To take any sort of long position until we get signs, right? Again, most of it's going to come with that intraday action. That's going to give us those quality plays, right? Even though we might be bearish on, a weekly, a 4 hour, all these other, bigger time frames, we can't go into the market, and look at a 5-minute chart and expect to see a massive sell-off, right? That's not how it works. We have to align all of our different biases. That's going to give us high quality performance trades, right? So being able to come into the market, say, okay, I might be I might be bearish on a weekly time frame. Where could I see price go before we end up going to whatever, the draw is on a bigger time frame? Because on a bigger time frame, looking at the daily, I still would want the draw on liquidity to be this daily fair value gap, right? We have big displacement back down, bullish candle to the upside on daily, and then engulfing bearish right back down, right? I'd want to see a sell-off back to this daily fair value gap. But what could I possibly expect to see before we go back into this daily? Well, looking at this chart right now, looking at the 1 hour, right, we've had this big move up. We could possibly say this is now market structure shift. We have swept some sort of liquidity, right? We have this low being swept here. We have displacement back to the upside. We've now retraced back into discounted fair value gap. We're starting to bounce on this 15-minute or this 1 hour fair value gap so far, and we're starting to hold. Now, I could potentially maybe see us come to this buy side level, right? So we want to take these things into account. The market is going to constantly be feeding data to us, and we can't have a strong bias, right? Our job is not to be married to a bias. All a bias is a bias, right? I don't go into the market expecting to take a trade based off of my bias until the market presents itself to me, and I can say, you know what? Wow, this trade is in favor of what I think the market's going to do, right? It's in favor of my bias. It's in favor of all of these other, time frames. That is when I execute. but I'm not going to go into the market expecting to see my bias play out, because that is where you're going to get overconfident. You're going to end up making a decision that, you're just tunnel visioned on your bias. You want to be able to take in that information quickly, consistently, and be able to adjust your bias accordingly, depending on, constant market, structure that's being fed to you whenever we're in, a trading session. So one of the biggest things that I could recommend as well is that was a big problem that I used to have when I first started trading. I'd come into the market and I would have a super, super strong bias. And it was very hard for me to, admit that I was wrong in a sense and adjust my bias accordingly. I would, let's say be in a trade and I knew that I was wrong. I knew that I was wrong. Like I confidently knew I was on the wrong side of a trade. My bias, I was so married to the position, so married to the bias because I didn't want to be wrong. And so I let this trade go against me knowing I'm already wrong, right? So it's going into the market, being constantly fed that information, and you want to be able to adjust your bias, right? As a trader, you're constantly adjusting, right? Constantly adjusting. So going into tomorrow, I'm going to keep my bias pretty loose, right? I'm not strong long. I'm not strong short. I want to see what happens when I wake up tomorrow and I can see the kind of action that present itself in the overnight session, right? That's going to be a big importance. Did we come up maybe? Did we sweep some kind of high? Are we still looking bearish? Are we opening low? Are we opening high? All of these things are going to be, things I want to take into account. That's why the charting sessions and the live sessions are so important, because the charting sessions is when we get to talk about a market that is still, right? We get to talk about a still market. There's no movement here, right? Now, when we get to chart in the live in the morning, we have constant information being fed to us. So you're not only being able to see me in a charting session, look at this and try to form a bias based off of structure here, but you get to see me form a bias based off of constant data being fed to me, right? That is how you actually trade. That is the importance of being traded. Being able to make those decisions when you're constantly being fed information, right? And being able to switch it, right? It's okay to be wrong. Recognizing that and saying, you know what, I think my bias was maybe off here. Let me look at this from a new perspective, right? What day was it? I can't remember the day, but for the people that have been consistently coming to the live sessions in the morning, we had a day where I was a little bit confused, or a little bit I didn't have any confident bias when going into the day. I was kind of long bias, kind of short bias, and I couldn't really figure out what the market wanted to do. I didn't really have any confidence on the draw. So what did I do? When I don't have clear and concise bias, or I don't have a clear drawn liquidity, I take everything off of my chart. I absolutely clear every drawing on my chart, and I look at it from a new perspective. I close my eyes, open my eyes again. All right, a new fresh chart. Nothing's on my chart. Nothing to give me a bias. And when you get a fresh head, right, you go in with a fresh set of eyes, no drawings on the screen, you can start to take in the exact same information just from a new perspective. And that gives you, clarity, being able to see that information, form a bias off of it, and then say, okay, I was maybe a little bit wrong here. To me, now this looks, even more clear. I'm going to take this into account. And, after we did that on live, we ended up taking, a great trade, right? All it takes is just being able to step away, maybe refresh, right? You might just be stuck, right? Sometimes we get stuck in the middle of the day. That's okay. It's okay to get stuck, right? But it's being able to quickly get out of that. And honestly, you don't even need to quickly get out of that. There's some days where price action is really, really hard to read. And there's some days where I come into the market and I'm like, you know what, guys? I can't read this market right now. What's the best thing to do? Nothing. The best thing to do is literally nothing. It's just sit there and watch the market, or, just stop trading in general, right? Being able to recognize those things and just stop is going to save you a lot of stress and a lot of money. Because the days where you come in and you're not confident in the draw, you're not confident in structure, you're not confident in your bias, but you're still putting on trades, right? Just cause. You're still putting on trades just cause. Those are the days you're going to give back profits. Those are the days where you're going to have drawdown and you're going to feel anxious, stressed, because you have no confidence. You're just trying to make money without a significant edge and without the proper market conditions. So our goal is to build those good habits, right? Recognizing those conditions. If those conditions present itself and they're good, you look to take an execution, right? You look to take a good trade. If those, market conditions aren't, presenting themselves, you don't take a trade. You simply just watch, wait for the market to, you backtest price, right? If you want to put on a trade, maybe go to a paper trade account, test your edge, test your strategy, but don't put a lot of capital on the table when you don't have confidence, right? So going into tomorrow, again, loose bias. I want to see what happens in the overnight session. I am short biased on the weekly time frame, but going into tomorrow, I do possibly could see a big move to the upside because we've come into this daily fair value gap. We're starting to show a little bit more, bias to the upside, and we have some clear buy side levels as well on NQ and ES. Again, we have this low resistance liquidity built up right here. So going into tomorrow, I am going to be bullish. Does anybody have any questions so far on the bias? So it looks like you could form a bias on a bigger time frame to help you understand direction, but then wait till you see structure to tell you what might plan out on the smaller time frame. That's what seems to fit my style anyways. Don't always have a bias for the 15-minute, 5-minute, or 1 minute. I will wait for structure to give me a bias, but the 1 hour, 4 hour, and up, I will find the bias the night before. Yep, I love it. Love it, brother. That's it. NAS 100 NQ. I'll be trading mostly on NQ. Again, they look pretty much the exact same on a smaller time frame. It's just the bigger time frame, right? If we're looking at, it's pretty much the exact same thing. So I'll normally just, I'll continue to trade NQ. What time frames you like to use to find short-term bias? For example, morning session 6:30. I like to use the 15-minute. Again, all of the biases, all time frames are important, but a lot of the times my bread and butter time frame that I love is the 15-minute, right? I can see clearly of, short-term highs, short-term lows, understanding sell side, buy side. But, to be honest, all time frames are important to understand bias. But again, that's when finding those quality setups, using it, when all your time frames align in a sense, that is when you're going to find quality setups. Yeah, hold shift when you're drawing, right? So if I draw a line and I don't hold shift, it's like this. But if I hold shift, it'll go straight. If we have a 15-minute fair value gap, do you go at a 5 or 1 minute to make the fair value gap smaller for better entries? So that's a good question. It's a great question. If I have, a bullish model, right? If I have a bullish model, let's say, for example, let's say this, right? Let's draw this out, right? Let's say, all right. Let's say we're looking at a 4-hour time frame here, right? 4-hour time frame. We have external liquidity swept, internal swept, market structure shift, pull back to fair value gap, right? All right, let's say this, right? All right. Okay. Let's say we have everything for a buy model, right? This would be market structure shift, right? And then we're now pulling back to, let's say, a 15-minute fair value gap. This is like let's just say this is a 15-minute or a 4-hour or 30-minute, whatever it is, right? So now I could just take a long position here. But if I'm taking a long position on a 4-hour time frame, that means my size is cut in by like 20. Like I'm trading 1/20th or 1/10th, like super small size, because if we're trading this type of bigger time frame model, that means my stop loss is going to be like here. And that kind of move is going to be like 80, 90 points, like way big, right? If I was to trade my actual size in this time frame and I'd get stopped, I'm losing like 20 bands or like 30 bands, right? And that's not what we want to do. So the way that I like you to, I always talk about overlapping models, right? So we have a buy model on this time frame. Okay, so what do we do? All right, we have we know that we want to look for a bounce on a 15-minute time frame. Okay, what do? I look so I zoom in. I zoom in. Right? We zoom in and I look for a buy model, the exact same buy model that's forming on a 15-minute time frame, and I look for the exact same thing in the 15-minute fair value gap. So what happens is we see this. Like let's say we come down, we put in maybe a low here, we sweep that low, and then we get big displacement back up, right? And then we get some more structure starting to form, right? Let's say this, right? Okay. We at the lows, we get a market structure shift, big displacement. All right, I maybe let's say I'm not confident yet to maybe take this fair value gap. Okay, now I see we're bouncing on this fair value gap. Okay, another model, boom, market structure shift right here. Okay, now that we've bounced off this fair value gap and we're bouncing on this fair value gap, right? This is high quality setups when all of these models start to align, right? So boom, 1 hour time frame. External swept, market structure shift. All right, I'm not confident to take this big fair value gap, right? So I want to zoom in. All right, I zoom in. All right, we're starting to bounce on the 15-minute. We get 15-minute market structure shift. All right, great. Big displacement to the upside. All right, I'm not confident yet to take, let's say, this 15-minute. All right, so let's zoom into the 5-minute. All right, 5-minute, boom, market structure shift on the 5-minute. All right, now I have confidence, right? I have all of these overlapping models to now I can take this 5-minute fair value gap, right? Because that's the time frame I like to execute, right? Those are my high quality setups where then I can target, right, buy side liquidity, and I can target, any external level, right? But this is where you gain high quality setups, is when you can fucking understand what overlapping models is, how to get the highest quality setups. This is how I'm so good at sniping. This is how I've been perfecting my entries. This is how you perfect your entries. When you can overlap models like this, get a buy model on this time frame. Okay, I want to gain confidence with my entry now. Okay, I wait for internal model, right? Okay, now internal model. All right, another internal model, inside that model, inside another model. That is when you get the perfect entry. And it'll look like it's fucking magic. It's just having the consistency and having the confidence to be able to wait. Patience, right? A lot of the people, right when this comes into here, you're not patient enough. And sometimes you'll even get ran through, right? Sometimes this won't even hold, right? You'll just get this, right? That's why waiting for all the models to show up, validating the bias, validating everything, validating what the draw is, that is when you'll get high quality setups. Does that make sense? Again, looking at this time frame, I don't need to catch this move. I don't need to catch this move, right? Because you know what I am super confident in? You know what I'm super confident in? Just this. Literally just this. And that's all I need. Boom. That's it. I just need this move. Now, even though you could leave a runner, right? We're still in a super bullish model. This is all you really need. This is literally all you need. Because this is going to be the most confident move in the entire setup here, right? In this entire model, this right here is the most confident move that you will get. And so when you guys see me trade, you'll notice a lot of the times I'll take off my trade here because that's all I need. When I have a confident setup, I'm going to take what I'm confident in being my price target. Again, it's always good to leave runners. If I was going to take this trade, I'd absolutely leave runners because we're still super bullish on a bigger time frame, right? But you need to get out of the mindset that you have to catch a massive move like this to make money, right? That's not the case at all. If you can have a confidence with just 5 to 10 points, that's it. 5-10 points. That's it. Literally 5-10 points. That is all you need to become successful and to literally change your life, to quit your job, to have financial freedom. All you need is a 5-point move. And just learning how to consistently catch a 5-point move. That's it. If we have a 15-minute Forex, do you go at a 5 or 1 minute? Okay, wait. Well, that kind of answered the question. Would you trade a 1 minute fair value gap if it's in discount and follows bias, or would you rather have aligned with a 15-minute fair value gap also or a 5 minute? Again, 1 minute fair value gap, I would need a little bit more context, right? With structure. Like, I would much rather look to take the 1 minute fair value gap after bouncing off of a 15-minute fair value gap, and then I have an even clearer draw on liquidity, right? I need overall structure, right? That's when I always say, guys, wait for structure. Just wait for structure. If you don't have a clear bias, guys, if you don't have a clear bias or a clear understanding of where the market's going to go, wait for structure. Structure is king. Structure will tell you, right? Waiting for these models to show and give us a better understanding of what the bias is, right? After recording my stats for the last 2 weeks, I found that I had 8 losers and 9 winners. Of those 9 winners, 4 of them reached my 20 handle rule or more for take profits. Of that 5 that didn't, I exited early on every single one. And I went back and looked at every single one of those 5 and it would have hit 20 handles. Now I'm placing emphasis on staying in trades until a minimum of 20-point move is met. Recording your trades is a game changer. Yes. Again, journaling is key, guys. You will not be able to learn what needs work and what does not need work if you're not journaling, if you're not constantly, every single trade, even if you don't take a trade, journal every day after watching the market, after looking at the market. What did you notice? Notice how you feel. Write that down. What trades you take? What did you do well? What did you not do so well, right? And when you go back, right, you have a journal of all of this past data, all of your data, right? It's you. It's personalized to you. Use that to your advantage. Where do I understand terms like SMT, market structure shift? I have a lot of information on my YouTube, but I recommend watching ICT content as well. ICT 2022 mentorship is what I would recommend. All right, let's do a little replay session. So what do you guys want to do? GBP? Let's do GBP. Let's do GBP, JPY. Now, I don't normally trade Forex, so let's see how this goes. Let's clear the chart here. All right, let's go back to like, I'm gonna go bigger time frame first, and then we'll zoom in. All right, so let's do like here. All right. All right, right? Boom. Going into the day, looking at the 4 hour. What does this look like to you on a bigger time frame? If we're going in on the daily, wait, what's my buy side level? Right, that's gonna be my buy side up here. Where's my sell side on the daily? Sell side's gonna be down here, right? Internal sell side's gonna be down here, right? Zooming in, we can see we've just swept this level here. Going to the left, do we have any sort of, PD array on a bigger time frame that we might be bouncing off of? Not really. We kind of have this order block we're kind of continuing to hold. This order block here. So if I'm going into this day, right, now we are chopping on a little bit of a bigger time frame here, right? So what would I kind of want to see here? Well, looking at the 4 hour, we kind of have the sell side level swept here. So what could I expect? Possibly whatever that previous high is getting met. We don't really have any sort of clear market structure shift on this time frame. We've kind of came up here, formed equal highs here. So we have equal highs, right? This is going to be something we want to look to target. Looks like we're coming back down to this 4 hour fair value gap here as well. Let's zoom into a 1 hour, right? So we have equal highs up here, right? This is where I want to see possibly get targeted. So let's start the go here. What would I look to possibly, what could I possibly look to trade here, right? Number one, highest probable setup is going to be if we come back to discount. But what I do want to watch is when we come down and we sweep this 15-minute and we bounce off this 1 hour, are we going to get a buy model? That's going to be the biggest thing I want to watch. So again, bigger bias, have equal highs. That's the draw on liquidity. We form equal lows here now, so I'm still not confident taking any long yet. Now we are having big displacement, so this looks like we're probably just going to end up taking those highs out. Again, being patient, right? No setup yet. There's still nothing. No confidence, letting the market do its thing. There we go. We've ended up sweeping those highs. Again, looking back on a bigger time frame now on the 1 hour. Notice we come up, sweep these highs. No displacement back down though, right? We're having big displacement back to the upside. So what is this possibly telling me? Possibly telling me bigger time frame, right? The draw on liquidity is going to be that bigger 4 hour level. So what can we possibly see? We swept this buy side level. Right now, we haven't had any displacement back to the downside. So what I'm going to draw in, all right, we have some PD arrays here. 4 hour fair value gap, going to draw this in. We also have this now 1 hour fair value gap, inverse fair value gap that we are now breaking through, right? What happens when we come back to this? It's going to hold. So right now, the draw on liquidity, in my opinion, now becomes that recent high. As well, on a bigger time frame, I believe this all now becomes low resistance. So I think the draw on liquidity is this buy side level on a bigger time frame. So I have not only a bullish bias on a 4 hour, I have a bullish bias on a daily here as well. So let's look now if we can perfect that entry, right? Zooming down, where could I expect us to now retrace? Well, looking at the move, I can expect we have this 1 hour fair value gap. So let's look if we come back down to that. All right, again, I'd still be wanting to look, is there any sort of trade that we could take targeting that draw? But right now, I'm being patient, letting the structure do its thing, right? We can see we came up. We've swept that level, right? No really entry up here, right? Maybe on a smaller time frame, you get maybe a 5-minute swept, maybe an SMT, and then a move up. But I'm not looking to really take any trade here unless we get, better confirmation. So now what I'm looking for is I'm looking to see, all right, do we sweep this level and displace back down? Or are we going to break through this and then look to head up to that higher draw, right? Because we know bigger time frame, the draws higher. But on a smaller time frame, we've just swept that external level. So we could reject here, right? So that's going to be something we want to watch. Zooming into the 5-minute here, this would now be our market structure shift, right? Notice on the 5-minute, though, we have not displaced through this level, right? So I'm not yet bearish. I'm not yet fully bearish. Kind of get some displacement, right? Not really. Not bad, but it's not clear. I do like the 15-minute so far. Again, I don't like that candle close, though, right? So the biggest thing on this trade is this would be a little bit lower quality because of the displacement's not super clean. But this could be a possible short setup. We've swept that level. We have internal swept being here. This now becomes the displacement lower. We're pulling back to that discounted fair value gap. So this possibly could be a short here. Now, again, this would be lower probable setup, right? So what I'd want to look for, I can't. I can't go down to a 1 minute, can I? Oh, where am I? What the? Oh, I gotta find where I was. There we go. All right. Go back here. All right. What are we waiting for, right? So we swept the external level. Now what are we waiting for? Internals being swept. Wait. This wasn't it. Wait, this is a whole... Is this a whole different fucking thing? Where are we? No, that is right. Wait. Wait, I'm so confused. Where are we? There we are. Okay. I was like, oh my god. Okay. Well, I gotta redo the reset now. Because I just got spoiled by all this action. Alright, we'll start here. Okay, we'll start here now. Alright. So, 1 hour. So, we ended up coming out, right? This did become low resistance liquidity. Right? So, we were right. Our bias was right. Drawn liquidity on a bigger time frame was as high. All of these highs became low resistance. Notice that when we came up and swept this level, we didn't reject because the overall draw was higher. That is what low resistance means. If we end up taking any of these highs, we're probably just going to go straight through it and go towards that external level, right? So now that we've came up and swept this level, notice the displacement back down, right? We're going right through this level here. So what are we looking for? Some sort of market structure shift. Now, no really low has been, purged yet. So I still want to see a little bit more action. Right now, I would want the draw to be here. But notice we have no really market structure shift yet telling us any sort of, short yet. So now that we've come down, right, still letting the kind of market do its thing. I want to look at a bigger time frame, what the draw might be. Looking at the daily here. So we have just come back into this daily fair value gap, right? Possibly expecting to see a bigger bounce. We've also just come down, swept this sell side level here. So if I'm going into today, I'm bullish, right? We have sell side swept. We're in a daily fair value gap. What could I potentially look to see now? Market structure shift on a bigger time frame. This would now be our market structure shift. If I zoom in, would look to see another sort of market structure shift if we could see it. Right. There we go. Waiting. Again, a bigger time frame. This would be a 1 hour, so I'd want to see displacement through this level. End up coming up, holding this 1 hour fair value gap, right? This, to me, not too bad of displacement. This would be, honestly, not that bad of a long. Where would I target on this? Any sort of imbalance. So this would not be a bad long. Targeting fair value gap, stop below that low. So, right, have sell side swept. Now, again, this would be a little bit lower quality because on a bigger time frame, we have swept that external level. But to me, we come down, swept some sort of sell side. We have a daily fair value gap. We have displacement to the upside. We're pulling back into that fair value gap. This wouldn't be that bad of a long position. So we'll see what happens here. You could take off a little bit at this high, but again, I would want to see all of these lows or all of these highs here become low resistance. So again, I would want the draw on liquidity to be that fair value gap. This would definitely be at least half off here, right? Because notice all these stacked highs here. Now that get swept, we have displacement back down. So I want to be careful, at least taking off some sort of position here, right? Still holding that fair value gap, right? It still would want the draw on liquidity to be that fair value gap. Coming back down. Now this move to the downside, right? Looking at whatever, if we have a fair value gap here, would want to see this hold here now. Let me see if we have any sort of thing that could maybe reject us here. 4 hour fair value gap, right? We have come up to this 4 hour fair value gap. So now starting to displace down. I'd still want to see higher. There we go. Draw gets met. Next draw on liquidity should be that high. But there you go. Draw on liquidity gets met, right? Just from looking at structure. Should see this high here now. There you go. Right, after seeing this high here, okay, now what comes to draw? These equal lows. Equal lows should get met. Do we get the high taken? High gets taken. All right, this is a clear level that we want to see get targeted now, right? Now, I'd want to see more structure. Looking out on the daily, right, there has to be some sort of draw that we're targeting if we're going higher. So we have a lot of these highs still back up here. Going to kind of mark in. We have like kind of 3 relative highs here. Gonna zoom in, back down. Right, we have all these stacked lows that I want to see become sell side. Going back down to the 1 hour here. Again, still waiting for structure. Starting to get a little bit more move to the downside. It's giving me kind of confidence that we might be heading lower. Putting in a new low, getting a bounce pretty quick. We're coming back in anywhere. Again, still waiting here. All right, we came up. Have not swept that high yet. Displacement back down. This is giving me confidence that the draw, we're probably going to end up taking this level out here. In a big consolidation. This is a crazy move right here. This area is a big fake out area, right? This is where you wait for one side to get swept, right? When you're trying to target these is when a lot of the times you'll get shaken out like that. So big move up here, daily time frame. We've now swept that high. Let's look at the 4 hour, right? This now becomes market structure shift on a bigger time frame. Looking at the 1 hour, what can I expect here now? Want to see this fair value gap? I would look for a possible short. Let's see if we get it pulled back in there. Trying to come back down. Want to be careful. Taking shorts now. Looking at the daily here. Do have that fair value gap as well as 4 hour. Right now, just waiting for a bounce, right? There we go. Coming back up to this fair value gap. Would not be a bad short. I would want to see an internal model start to play out, though. So I'm actually going to flatten this. I'd want to see a little bit more. There we go. This would now become internal being swept. Now I'd want to see a model play out here. That would be my short market structure shift. Pull back to fair value gap on a smaller time frame. I'm guessing my first target on this would be this low. Stop would be this high, right? Super tight risk, right? 3.31 RR on my first take profit. Would let the rest run somewhere down there. There you go. First TP gets taken. Stop at break even. And then I'd let the rest run. Again, bigger time frame wise. There you go. That should be stopped at break. That would be stopped at break even. First PT gets hit. Again, if we don't see lower, that would make me believe that we possibly could see higher. But we end up coming up, sweeping this level once again. Again, possibly could see lower now. I'd want to see sell side now become this low, right? So if I'm going to take a short here after seeing that displacement back down, stop would be at the high. I'd look to see this now become sell side. There we go. Sell side runners would go down to this low now, right? Fuck, I pressed spacebar so it reset everything. I don't know where I was. Oh, it gets met. There you go. And then the runner drawing liquidity on a bigger time frame, right? Because again, using that overall bias. Bigger bias, noticing 4 hour high just got swept. 4 hour big move back down. Look at where we're pulling back to. 4 hour fair value gap back to where we are. Once we see that high, perfect entry right there, right? All right. Any questions? That was fun. Guys, this is just from drawing lines. Like, all it is market experience, right? Understanding how our model works, understanding how draw works. Again, it exactly looks like magic. It's just time. It's just time, guys. How often do you use order blocks? Not too often, but when I see them, I'll use them. Does Justin have a GF? Hell no. You guys are my GF. You guys are where my time goes. Makes so much sense now. I was confused on the first couple of days, but now it's making more sense. Let's go, Ben. Beautiful, Justin. Thank you, Leanne. These actually help so much. Awesome. That's the whole goal. How do you know whether or not to go for an external draw versus an internal? Wait for the market to tell you which one, right? Wait for are we validating certain biases, meaning if we're bearish, are we holding bearish fair value gaps? Are we selling off towards that level? If we for example, right, we had a clear draw on liquidity being that external high, right? So how do we deal with that when knowing we have possible setups here, right? We know that there's highs and lows everywhere. So knowing the external draws here, we have to wait to see the reaction of certain levels, right? Yes, I will put replay session in the title as well. All right, guys. Anybody have any last questions before we end the session? We've been going for around an hour now. Going back to the idea of not having to be married to a bias, gotta wait to see the reaction. Yep, always wait for structure, right? How often do you use equilibrium with fair value gap? Not too often. I don't use equilibrium for a fair value gap. No. Oh, if you're saying equilibrium, like to retrace, like premium, like are you talking about like this? Like if I was to look at this 4-hour, and I was to look to see like a discount to fair value gap here, I use that often. But I'm not equilibrium of a fair value gap, meaning the consequent encroachment is what I'm basically saying. But I'm sure that's what you mean by this, and I'm thinking of consequent encroachment. Thank you, Justin. This is extremely helpful. Much love, of course. Let's crush it. All right, guys. First day on the court. Let's go. Welcome, Dawson. All right, guys. Get some rest. Enjoy the rest of your night. I'll post the charting session for you guys. Can go back and look at it. I'll post it on the YouTube for everyone to see because I think these charting sessions are super useful for everyone. So enjoy the rest of your night, guys. I will see you all tomorrow morning for live trading. Peace.